So hey guys, welcome to the Watchtower Watch Reviews with your host DK, and I am joined by a very special guest today, Raul Moreno from Fuga Automatico. So Raul, you are introducing your first watch into the market via Kickstarter, and I thought it would be a good idea for guys to get to know you, get to know the brand, and also get to know exactly what it is you're releasing. So why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and your background?
Well, first of all, thank you for the interest from you and from Ireland. And as you said, I'm trying to start a new brand, and what we've done so far is basically working very hard on what I think are very nice prototypes. We've been working on social media, mostly on Instagram, and now just yesterday we launched, as you said, our first Kickstarter campaign, which is a very interesting tool for this kind of projects. On my background, I have to say that I don't really have a direct connection with horlogerie, with the world of watchmaking. I've been working in many different industries in my life. And basically, as many of us, I think you are also one of those watch aficionados who love watchmaking, always think about which will be the perfect or the design we like, right? And that's what I try to do. Basically,
exactly. I suppose people call those the Grail watches for them. So people have different ones. For me, it might be something like a Tudor Black Bay. That's a watch that I have a lot of love for. I suppose that leads nicely into, I suppose, what would be outside of your own company, because we'll go for that in a minute. But what would be your dream watch? What is your perfect watch?
Well, actually, Tudor is one of my main influences. Omega as well, and I also like a lot, in general, the German pilot watches, like Stowa or Laco. This kind of brands, which are small brands, but that really take care of the customer. You know, it's not only always about the design, but also about the corporate and the company approach towards clients and customers. But in general, I like a lot what I call explorer type or expedition type watches. Seiko Alpinist would be also an influence within that category. Some Smith, Tudor Black Bay, of course, the Rolex Explorer, of course. I would say that those are my main influences.
Yeah, and I would agree with all of those. And when I actually saw the Viajero, I had the same thoughts that I had that you had mentioned there as well about the Rolex Explorer GMT and that kind of thing. It looked sort of like you had taken inspiration from, but put your own spin on, which was very important, because I find that a lot of the watches that end up on Kickstarter these days, there's a little bit of originality missing. They tend to go for the Submariner type of watch, and they make the usual dive watch, 200 meters water resistance, Seiko NH35 in the back, date at 3 o'clock. And what I like about yours is the fact that it doesn't have that. So it's something quite different, and it gives something that I think the market is crying out for, which is another GMT that really just brings something new to the table while still sort of taking inspiration from existing watches. So why don't you maybe talk about the production process that you've got at the moment for the Viajero? Because I know in COVID that can't be easy.
Well, first of all, thank you for your words, because that's exactly what I try to do. The first thing I would like to say is that we haven't used during the whole production process any mass produced parts. I'm thinking about the steel machined parts, okay? The case, the crown, the dial, the hands, etc. All that has been expressly made for us according to our original drawings, which is, of course, something which is more expensive than using standard parts, which are produced by millions. Designing a watch from scratch and trying to be absolutely original, trying to make something absolutely new, I would say it's almost impossible. You always have some inspiration in something, in some models. Basically, the idea was to take inspiration from those models I mentioned before, okay, and to make something renewed, okay. In that process, I used I took the opinion of many friends I have all over the world, And I took elements from those conversations, okay? This has been a very slow process, more than 3 years, okay? But for me, it was a hobby. It's still a hobby, okay? And this is the final result.
And I think that 3 years is a great time to put into it as well, because if you're building something from scratch and you're also sourcing all your materials independently, you're not going to a big manufacturer to take off the rack parts. It's a labor of love, but it's also something that will be uniquely yours. Then it will be something that has specifically been designed with you in mind and with your type of customer in mind. And that's something that a lot of people miss out on, I think, with Homage watches, which I review a lot of. They wonder how they can produce these so cheaply. And I think that's something that is missed a lot of, is it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of money to figure out exactly how these watches will be put together if you're designing from scratch. If you're doing something from scratch, you basically need to start with a pen and a paper and an ideas board. And you need to spend hours, days, months, and even years drawing before you ever go to a supplier and say, I want this.
My original intention was to produce everything in Spain, or at least within the European Union. And it was, I have to say, unfortunately, it wasn't possible, at least to do everything here. Okay, it wasn't possible. So for me, an honest project, I like to use that word very much. The steel parts have been produced in Asia, okay, in different suppliers from different countries in the Asian continent. And the quality is very good. I mean, technologically speaking, and the quality control procedures have improved a lot over the years. Okay. For the rest of the watch, even the dials, the movements, of course, are Swiss, are from ETA. Okay. The rest of the watch has been made. All the suppliers are from either from Europe or from Spain. Okay. And a very special part of the watch for me are the bracelets, the leather ones, which is done by a company from my hometown. I'm from the south of Spain, from Seville, okay?
Ah.
And and this guy, his name is Antonio Enrile. He's using leather from the Howin factory in Chicago, Cordova leather, which is very expensive. At the same time, it's a very resistant leather. It's very good for humidity, for watchmaking in general. Okay. And as I said before, on the movements, I've been using, this is the only GMT movement that ETA has produced. Okay. The 2893-2. And I have a stock enough to face the challenge, let's say, because it's not a good time to find ETA movements in the market. Okay, basically the difficult part of all this process for an independent watchmaker is mostly to have a right balance between your requirements, the suppliers deliver the work. Something I've done for almost every part of the watch. I have at least 2 suppliers in case some of them fail. I hope it was clear enough.
No, that's perfect. And I think it's very important as well that when people back Kickstarter projects, they realize that the person behind it is very rarely in it to just make off with people's money. There are, of course, the odd example where something terrible has happened and someone has done it deliberately, but there's always challenges to face with stuff where you're building from scratch. And I think it's very important for people to realize that. And you coming on here and speaking to a guy like me is, I think, a really important step for brands, because it just gives someone a face as well that they can put to the brand. So with a new brand, it's very important to know that the person you're buying from has your best intentions at heart. And I do believe that is the case with you and with your company as well. How is this watch actually going to be packaged? Have you thought about that in terms of things that you're going to supply with it?
Yeah, well, one of the things I never liked when I bought some expensive watch, or at least expensive for me, I'm thinking about Omegas and Tudors and this type of watches, is paying a huge amount of money for the steel bracelet or the leather bracelet once you had bought just the first watch, okay, which usually comes only with one bracelet. So first solution for that is I will sell the Viajero one with 3 bracelets, a NATO strap, a cloth NATO strap, one of these Howin leather straps as well, and then a steel bracelet. Okay. Then on the packaging, we've been working in a small package, a small box, a wooden box. Then and then of course we will provide a 2-year warranty. Okay. And the after-sale service is covered by the company which does the supply of the watch in Madrid, which is the name is Chrono World. It's a very well-known watchmaker from Madrid. It's a 2-generation family of watchmakers, which a long tradition, very good reputation, and I mean I trust very much them, and they also work for very well-known brands.
And I think that's really important as well. The fact that you've touched on 2 things there that I tend to find with some of the watches that I've bought for my channel, which are the after-sale service is a case of you just buy a new one. So, for example, I'm wearing a Vostok today. You don't get Vostok serviced. You put them in the bin. You buy another one in however many years' time when it finally dies. So that's one thing. But obviously your brand is more, it's more upmarket is what you're aiming at. And I think it's very important the fact that you've mentioned there that you have someone who in place already for the after sales service for the likes of the interval service. So I'm actually trying to remember on ETA, is it a 5-year service interval?
Yeah.
They want to have it serviced, you send it to Chrono World, they'll service it for you. Perfect. The other thing as well is the fact that you've mentioned you're providing a couple of different strap options, which is great because in particular, I think the fact that you've chosen white and black dials go very, very well with the fact that you can swap straps out. And if you're providing a bracelet, a NATO and a leather, you basically are covered for every option on that one. Can you tell us how much the watch would be on Kickstarter for those who haven't seen the link already?
Yeah, the price now there is a special promotion for the first 35 units on each dial, white and black, for $6.99, which I mean with the cost of the shipping, it's about 700 and a little bit depending on the country. So around 700 euros, okay, which is very good for a GMT. With that movement, okay. The cost of the movement is quite high in the final price. It represents a big percentage of the final price from a cost production point of view. So I think we've managed to offer a very competitive price. Actually, I would say that I don't think there are many GMTs with that movement or of a similar quality in the market right now. I want to be very clear that for the future, we would like to, let's say, protect our price. The future price, of course, will be a bit higher, not too much higher. And we would like to work a lot on protecting that price and to ensure the future customers that we will keep the price, because that means keeping the value.
What I wanted to check with you guys as well is there a timeline for release on this one? So if someone was to back your Kickstarter and the Kickstarter is successful, and I have very little doubt that it will be, what is the timeline for them to receive their watch?
Yeah, the timeline is published, as I said, is since yesterday. It's on the Kickstarter page. The delivery time will be during the month of June, so June 2021, if everything goes okay, which I hope it goes okay, probably the second week of June, okay? And that's our commitment.
To my subscribers as well, I hope you enjoyed the interview with Raul, and hopefully it's given you a bit more of a background on him as a person and also his company and what they're aiming to do. So if you have liked the video, please make sure to give it a like, give it a subscribe, and I will see you guys next week for a usual review of something. Thank you very much.